The evening air carried a gentle chill, brushing through the trees of the city park. Golden streetlights glowed against the lengthening shadows, and the sound of distant laughter mixed with the rustle of autumn leaves. Daniel Morgan walked hand in hand with his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, his polished shoes crunching softly on the gravel path. Daniel, though known by the world as a millionaire entrepreneur, wasn't thinking about business tonight. He had spent years climbing the ladder of success, investing, building companies, and earning respect. Yet now, all of that felt hollow compared to the small, warm hand clutching his own. Since Lily's mother had left years ago, Daniel had poured his heart into fatherhood, determined to give Lily every ounce of love she deserved. They often took evening walks together. It was their ritual, a way to escape the echoing halls of their grand home and simply be father and daughter. Lily, dressed in a pink coat and clutching her stuffed bunny, swung her arm playfully as they strolled. "Daddy," she chirped, "when I grow up, I want to buy a house full of candy." Daniel chuckled, glancing down at her. "A house full of candy? And what about your teeth?" "I'll brush them twice," she replied with conviction, giggling. Daniel smiled, savoring her innocence. For all his riches, it was these little moments that made him feel wealthiest. As they neared the park's old oak tree, Lily suddenly slowed. Her laughter faded, replaced by curiosity. She tugged his sleeve, her small finger pointing toward the worn wooden bench beneath the tree. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice carrying a mix of confusion and concern. "Why is she sleeping here?" Daniel followed her gaze. There, curled up on the bench, was a girl no older than Lily. She was wrapped in a thin, tattered blanket that barely shielded her from the cold. Her hair was tangled, her cheeks streaked with dirt, and her tiny shoes were worn through at the soles. She lay so still that for a moment Daniel thought she might not be breathing until he saw the subtle rise and fall of her chest. Daniel's heart clenched. He had seen homelessness before. Of course, his businesses spanned cities where broken families and lost souls lined the streets. Yet it was different when the face staring back at you was that of a child, the one so young, so fragile. He crouched slightly, bringing himself closer to Lily's level. "Sweetheart," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion, "she doesn't have a home." Lily's big brown eyes blinked up at him. "Boat a broken bar, but everyone should have a home, Daddy." Daniel swallowed hard. His daughter's words pierced through him like a blade. He looked at the girl again, his mind racing. Where were her parents? Was she lost, or abandoned? Lily tugged again at his arm. "Can we help her?" For the first time in years, Daniel felt uncertain, and not in business, not in finance, but in something raw and human. His mind flashed back to the nights he had spent rocking Lily to sleep when she cried for her absent mother, the fear in her voice when she asked why her mom wasn't there anymore. He had vowed back then never to let her feel unwanted. And now, here was another little girl, someone else's child, curled up in loneliness. He took a deep breath and approached the bench cautiously. The girl stirred at the sound of his footsteps, her eyelids fluttered, and she sat up slightly, alarm flashing in her eyes. She looked ready to run, clutching her thin blanket tightly around herself. "It's okay," Daniel said gently, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "You're safe. I won't hurt you." The girl said nothing, only stared with wide, guarded eyes. Lily, however, broke the silence. She stepped forward, her bunny in her arms. "Hi," she said in her innocent voice. "I'm Lily. What's your name?" The girl hesitated, her lips parting, but no words came. She lowered her gaze, hugging her knees instead. Daniel's heart ached. He could see eye to the mistrust, the fear of someone who had already been failed by the world far too many times. He knew that look. He'd seen it in employees who had grown up in the foster system, and people who carried scars invisible to most. "Are you hungry?" Daniel asked softly. "We have food at home. Warm soup, bread." Still no response. But when Lily stepped closer, holding out her stuffed bunny, something shifted. The girl's eyes flicked toward the toy, then back at Lily. Lily smiled warmly, with all the pure acceptance only a child could offer. "You can hold him if you want," Lily said. "His name is Mr. Floppy. He's soft, and he's good at keeping secrets." The girl's thin fingers reached out hesitantly, brushing the bunny's ear. For the first time, a faint glimmer of something, a hope, maybe, flashed across her face. Daniel crouched down to their level. "Would you like to come with us?" he asked gently. Just for tonight. A warm meal, a safe bed. The girl's eyes darted between him and Lily, uncertainty battling with longing. Finally, she gave the smallest nod. Relief washed over Daniel. He extended his hand, but instead of taking his, the girl reached for Lily's. Lily beamed, squeezing her hand tightly. Daniel stood, watching as his daughter led the girl off the bench. The sight carved a permanent mark on his heart. He had come to the park tonight simply to enjoy a quiet walk with Lily. Instead, he had found a child in desperate need, a child who, for reasons he couldn't yet understand, had been placed in his path. As they walked toward the car, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that this moment would alter the course of their lives forever. The ride home was quiet, except for the faint hum of the car engine and the rhythm of the city passing by outside. Daniel sat behind the wheel, glancing every so often at the rear-view mirror. Lily was buckled safely in her seat, her small hands still holding tightly to the girl's. The girl who had finally whispered her name, Emma, sat stiffly, her thin frame pressed against the door as though she was afraid to take up too much space. Her eyes flicked around the interior of the luxury car, her lips slightly parted in awe. It was the kind of car she had only seen from the sidewalk, when businessmen in tailored suits or elegant women in heels stepped out, leaving behind a trail of perfume and success. Now, she was inside one, and the leather smelled strange, the seats too soft beneath her. She wasn't sure if she belonged there at all. Daniel caught her reflection in the mirror, those wary, guarded eyes that seemed much older than her actual years. It made his chest ache. "Are you warm enough?" he asked gently. Emma blinked, surprised he was speaking to her. She hesitated before nodding quickly. Lily leaned toward her. "We have hot chocolate at home," she whispered like it was a secret. "Daddy makes it with marshmallows, but I eat most of them before they melt." That turned a tiny spark of amusement from Emma. Not quite a smile, but close. Daniel noticed it immediately, and his heart softened. If Lily could make her laugh, even a little, maybe this girl still had a chance at feeling safe. When they arrived at the mansion, Emma's eyes widened again. The iron gate swung open automatically, and the car rolled up a long driveway lined with trimmed hedges and glowing garden lights. The house came into view, vaster and elegant, its windows shining like golden eyes against the night. Emma shrank back in her seat. This place looked like a castle, and castles weren't meant for people like her. As Daniel parked, he turned to face her. "Ma," he said softly, "this is our home. You don't have to be afraid. You're welcome here." She lowered her gaze, her fingers tightening on the frayed blanket she still clutched. Lily, unfazed, hopped out of her seat and tugged Emma's hand again. "Come on," she said brightly. "You can see my room." Step by hesitant step, Emma followed her into the house. Inside, warmth enveloped them. The faint scent of cinnamon drifted from the kitchen, and the glow of a fireplace lit the living room. To Emma, it was almost overwhelming. She glanced at the chandelier, the polished marble floor, the tall staircase, and felt so small she wished she could disappear. Daniel watched her carefully, noticing the way she lingered at the doorway, almost afraid to step too far in. He recognized the look. It was the same one people wore when they entered a world they felt unworthy of. He had seen it countless times in business partners who came from nothing, staring wide-eyed at wealth they didn't know how to touch. But Emma wasn't a business partner. She was a child, and that made it unbearable. "Are you hungry?" he asked, motioning toward the dining table. "We can fix you something." Emma shook her head quickly, almost fearfully. Lily tilted her head. "But Daddy makes really good sandwiches, and cookies too." "Please, Emma, you have to try them." Emma's stomach betrayed her with a faint growl. Her cheeks flushed, and Daniel pretended not to notice, simply heading to the kitchen. Moments later, he returned with a plate of grilled cheese sandwiches cut into triangles, a steaming bowl of tomato soup, and 2 mugs of hot chocolate topped with marshmallows. Emma stared at the food as if it were a treasure. Slowly, she reached for a sandwich, biting into it carefully. The warmth, the taste of it was too much. Her throat tightened, and before she could stop herself, tears welled in her eyes. She turned her face away quickly, embarrassed. Daniel pretended not to see, giving her space, but Lily leaned in closer. "It's okay," she whispered. "I cried when Daddy made me soup once, too. It was just so yummy." Emma let out a choked laugh. and Daniel's heart swelled. After dinner, Lily eagerly dragged Emma upstairs. Daniel followed at a slower pace, watching as the two girls disappeared into Lily's bedroom. The room was filled with soft pink walls, shelves of dolls and stuffed animals, and a bed with a canopy that looked like something out of a fairy tale. Emma froze at the doorway, staring at it all like she had stepped into another world. "You can sleep here with me," Lily declared, patting the bed. "There's plenty of space, and you can borrow my pajamas too." Emma hesitated. "Yeah, broken bar, I don't want to break anything," she whispered. "You won't," Lily said firmly, tugging her inside. "You're my friend now. Friends are allowed." Daniel leaned against the doorframe, watching as Lily handed Emma a soft pair of pajamas decorated with little stars. Emma touched the fabric like it was made of glass. When the girls finally curled up under the blankets, Lily snuggled close and whispered about her favorite bedtime stories. Emma listened quietly, her eyes wide, soaking in every word like it was something precious. For the first time in what seemed like forever, she didn't feel alone. Daniel stood there longer than he needed to, his chest tightening. He thought of all the deals he had closed, the wealth he had accumulated, the nights he had spent in boardrooms instead of at home. None of it mattered compared to these two little girls whispering in the dark, finding comfort in each other. Later that night, when the house had grown quiet, Daniel stepped into the room again. Both girls were asleep now, Lily's arm draped protectively over Emma. The sight brought a lump to his throat. He walked closer, brushing a stray strand of hair from Emma's face. She stirred slightly but didn't wake. In her peaceful expression, he saw something that shattered him, the vulnerability of a child who had been denied safety for too long. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, lowering his head into his hands. He wasn't an emotional man by nature, but tonight, something inside him cracked. How many children like Emma were out there? How many were sleeping on benches while he slept in a mansion? For all his wealth, what good was it if he didn't use it for something greater? He looked back at the girls, his heart heavy but also alive with a new kind of determination. Quietly, he made a vow. Emma would never have to sleep on a park bench again, not as long as he had a say. And as he turned off the light and closed the door, Daniel realized something profound. Money had given him power, but giving Emma a family, giving her love, would make him truly rich.